Good to go over here. Whoa. I'm still kind of riding high off of yesterday's training with AARP. If you want to check it out, go on Facebook. It was cool. The Four Bells is unique in the realm of mindfulness because we process the mindfulness experience. So in a lot of mindfulness training, they'll go right into kind of the deep dive of the kind of the not asleep, not awake world of mindfulness, which is more like meditation. And there's this kind of like, there's just this kind of very airy quality about the practice, and it's nice. I really enjoy the experience of kind of really getting into it and relaxing and listening to a guided meditation, kind of going into a wonderful kind of liminal space and really enjoying it. I like that a lot, but it has less practical application in the context of, can I do this in the moment? Like if I'm in an active environment and I need this practice, can I really do that? Can I really do this stuff? And I think that's really what distinguishes Armor Down and the Four Bells from any other practice, which is it's really meant to be a tactical thing. It's really meant to be used as a way to navigate your inner world and kind of realign or reorder a military-based, military-trained central nervous system to work well as in a civilian environment. I mean, it's really a retooling, and it's like military training in that it's meant to be deployed in the action. It's not just something that's deployed prior to. It's why they say in the military, trust your training. And in Armor Down, it's trust the bells, right? You trust the fact that you're working with things that are not untethered to kind of the reality of the moment. There's no disadvantage to becoming more present with what's going on in the moment. There's no disadvantage to adapting your posture to the appropriate positioning that you're in and comfort. Bringing the breath in supports everything. There's no disadvantage to being aware in the moment and going. And then there's no disadvantage to essentially turning on the best part of yourself and letting it run. The stuff that comes out of us when we're at our most kind of in the moment, best stimulated, that kind of stuff you've seen all the time. You see it all the time. But you've never really seen it in the context of a culmination of a type of training. And that's what the Four Bells do. They culminate. They culminate with your best self. And then you just deploy your best self. But your best self has often been defined as, some kind of identity or some kind of look or some kind of job or some kind of car or some kind of drink or some kind of drug. It's not often that you hear people understand their best selves as a process that they can cultivate and develop in an instant. It's just not really part of our language. And so that's what the Four Bells do. They really create that new way of interacting with the things that make up the best version of who you are. And so this week we've been discussing being the best version of yourself inside of a conflict. And the basic idea I've started with and will forever maintain is that the best way to essentially win, and when I mean win, I mean both parties leave feeling if both parties leave feeling great, like, that was a great conversation. Thank you for that. I thought we were going to have to beat each other's asses, but instead we're going to go and have a cigar. That was awesome. Thank you. Now that's ideal, right? You leave a conflict like that, I mean, you're just a master. But if you do get into a conflict, and you see it all the time in social media, if it does happen, you want to attack the armor that the person's using to defend their heart as opposed to the person. Because if you attack the person, they'll put up more armor to defend their heart. But if you attack the armor, eventually you'll break through that armor and get to their heart. And then once you've gotten to someone's heart, it's much, much easier to create kind of a neutral back and forth. So we've talked about attacking physical armor. The best way to attack physical armor is to be in your own kind of calm environment. Because if you can create calm internal environment and have that reflect in your body language, so none of this tension in the shoulders, no tightness of the jaw, watch your tone of voice. If you keep it smooth, for example, Biden, but you could tell Biden was struggling, not in the kind of sense that he was unable to stand up, unable to keep going. He was kind of stable. Like I would say Biden's position was stable. Now Trump was very aggressive. Trump was just attack. Biden took 95% of his attacks pretty stably. Now, the reason why he only took 95, and then the reason why he wasn't very good at attacking around to really kind of take Trump, is he kept getting his body language kept changing, which was evidenced by his smiling, his turning, his laughing, his shaking his head. All those things are reflections of his internal environment being disrupted in a big way. It came out on his face. Your face is connected to your central nervous system. It's called the I got it over there. It's called the social, it's part of your vagus nerve. I'll find the details there. But you can see it on your face when the disruption's happening. So for Biden to be less or more than 95% successful in not only defending against Trump's attacks, if he wants to get around Trump's armor and start attacking Trump at his heart, he's got to be able to be without all that facial stuff. And all that facial stuff is a reflection of his internal stuff. And so in order to get to that space, he's got to be able to be inside the moment, and he's got to be able to separate. He's got to be able to separate. So that's attacking the mental armor. The separation that he's got to understand is that he cannot follow Trump's talking. He can't do it. He cannot do it. It is none of the words that Trump say matters. The words are irrelevant. It's how Trump is saying the words that matter. It doesn't matter. Trump could be talking about aliens. Trump could be talking about dogs wearing dresses. Trump could be talking about slugs. It doesn't matter what Trump's talking about. What matters is how Trump's talking about it. It's fast. It's vicious. It's confusing. It's an onslaught. It's an onslaught of tone. It's an onslaught of look. It's an onslaught of posture. It's an onslaught of flow. This onslaught can't be addressed intellectually. He starts, Trump's like, Hunter Biden, $3 million from Russia. And you can see that Biden's brain is, or his mind is trying to get a hold of what Trump's saying to get him, right? To get his zingers in. You can tell he's been coached. Like, say something about $750 in taxes. Tell he's been coached, right? And he's been coached to look for this stuff intellectually. So he's looking for it, he says something, and Trump comes back with some weird craziness. You're just like, what the hell? So the intellect cannot keep up with Trump. So you cannot engage with Trump intellectually. You have to engage with him physically. And so that's how to attack mental armor is by, what did I say here? Attacking mental armor. Oh yeah. So by attacking mental armor, the way mental armor works is you attack the pieces that make up the kind of presentation. And the way you attack mental armor is just by pointing it out. And as you point it out, okay, what happens is the act of pointing it out takes away some of its effectiveness. Because what most people see is the onslaught to the other person and the other person's inability to keep up with the onslaught. Regardless of what the onslaught's saying, that can be talked about later on. But what in the moment, what actually matters is how the onslaught's coming. And so when you start to attack the pieces of the onslaught, so you talk about tone of voice, you talk about facial expression, you talk about body language, you talk about volume, you talk about speed, you talk about the qualities of what's being said as opposed to what is being said. So that's how you attack mental armor. Now this part's really valuable because it's the rock, paper, scissors kind of scenario. So someone throws rock, the other person throws paper, paper defeats rock. You do that once, a couple times, and someone realizes they catch on, and they throw scissors, right? So scissors beats paper, okay? And so you go this back and forth. And so the idea is to get the person thinking you're going to throw something that you're not going to throw, and you throw the counter. And so it's got this trifecta, right? Rock, paper, scissors, rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, okay? And so what you do when you're attacking rock, paper, scissors style is you shift from one to the other. So you can go tone of voice, you can attack tone of voice, and then you ask a question. You can be self-deprecating, and then attack tone of voice, and then ask a question. You can ask a question, create a sense of awareness of yourself, and then ask a question. So the question is really valuable. The question is really valuable because what the question does is the question comes as essentially the culmination of you being aware of yourself and you attacking the style of the onslaught as opposed to the guts of what's he saying. You don't attack what he's don't attack what Trump's saying. So you gotta be able to deal with the onslaught, and you gotta be able to take it kind of like the way someone would be sitting in the rain, just kind of enjoying the rain. It's like onslaught, Hunter Biden, Russia, blah 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 blah. Feet, tailbone, belly button, heart, throat, top of the head, breathing. Anybody hear what he just did there? I don't remember any of the stuff he said because, I mean, who knows what he's actually talking about? Everybody knows that. So, but what I do want to point out is, there's this kind of gaze that he gives me. I can feel it right now. I can feel his gaze. I can feel him staring at me. I'm here. I'm going to look at Trump right now and see what happens. Right? Okay. So he's done all this, top. There's you can tell the anger in it, the frustration in it. And I get that he's going aggressive. He's going hard. He's got to show he's the man. I get that. I totally get that. But my question is, where do you bring people together with that? Where do you bring people together with that? And look, I'm up here right now. My heart's racing. I'm nervous. I want to beat this guy, right? I want to beat this guy. I want to show you that goodwill can stand up to this stuff. But, you know, I feel nervous. You know, I don't particularly like this stuff. But, you know, Trump, I got to ask you, you know, how do you navigate the numbers? How do you navigate 200,000? That's such a catastrophic failure. How do you do that? Maybe if we understood how you don't let that bother you, it could help the country. So it's hard to give this words, because the only way this works is in the moment. You can prepare the broad strokes, but you can't apply this as an intellectual construct. The only intellectual construct is to know the framework, and then once you're in, you've got to go through the steps, which takes me back to the 4 bells. You've got to go through these steps in order to get to the gold. You can't do this stuff in your head, because it doesn't work that way. To do this stuff in your head is to forget about the fact that your head doesn't exist in isolation from the rest of you. So your head can only be as effective as all the other parts of your system are effective. So you can't get to the best version of yourself without settling your base layers. You just can't. And it's biology. It's like if I take away the blood flow to this hand and completely render it inert, I can't use it to play the violin. I can't use it to play piano. I can't use it to write. It just can't be done. No matter how much I think I could do it and imagine I could do it, I can't do it. You cannot get to the part of your brain that can handle the type of onslaught that Trump brings to an environment unless you are calm. Unless you are calm. And calm doesn't mean relaxed. Calm just means you're not hearing Trump attack with lies and deceit and going, shut up, man. Like, come on, man. You're not doing that stuff. That stuff is a sign of exasperation. That's at the end of the day with your kids, and you're just like, fuck it. You can have some candy. So that's no good. You're still in the fight, but you're not making any, decisive blows or decisive hits. So the bells is really important. You really got to understand that. And if you're not practicing every day, all the time, you're just being silly. Your number one resource in everything is your attention. Everything. Your attention matters more than anything else. You could say your money matters, but you don't give your money to stuff you don't pay attention to. Attention comes first. That's why we call it in the Armor Down world the master variable. Everybody calls it that in our company. Everybody, the master variable. If you don't understand the master variable and you aren't working with the master variable, you're going to lose out to all the people that are. And countless people are working with the master variable. Working with people in Germany, working with people in New York, working with people in Virginia, working with people all over, and people are understanding the master variable. And if you're not understanding the master variable, 1, and you're not practicing it, 2, you're being silly, really. And the master variable is not hard. It's not hard to understand. It's not hard to practice, but it's hard to recognize inside an onslaught. It's very hard. It's so hard. And the reason why it's hard is the same things that make the master variable valuable are the same things that can make it like beholden to something else. Addiction isn't a biological thing at its root. Addiction is an attention thing. The more attention you pay to this thing, the more it dominates. Now, if you stop paying attention to this thing, you might get a whole bunch of stuff going on in your body, which is part of the addiction. But if you learn how to pay attention in the first place, and you learn what to do when all these things shift, and you can actually pay attention to them as opposed to let them just dominate you and pull you off, you're way ahead of the game. So lots and lots of people are doing this. I mean, I know lots of people that are doing this. And if you're not doing this, you're being silly. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. Practice, practice. And we're going to practice right now. So get yourself queued up for comfort. Find what makes you feel safe and comfortable. And whatever you're doing right now, I guarantee you can find 2% more comfort. I promise you can find 2% more comfort. And so whatever that is, get that squared away, get that set up, and we will go into the bells. First bell coming up. First bell is always taming the mind. The intellect exists everywhere and anywhere. Your senses always exist in the present moment. Sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Kind of feels good to close my eyes. So I'm just going to close my eyes and open my awareness to sound. In my mind, I just had this kind of memory of a, loud noise. Just a huge, loud, overpowering noise. Like, oh man, these 3 bombs went off in Iraq one time that were near our base, and just boom. And it was just so big. I think the reason I thought of it is because I saw some videos of 2 tennis players playing tennis in Paris, and there was a sonic boom of a jet, and the players all went like, they all looked up and like, oh gosh. But like, what's the opposite of that? What are the qualities of quiet that you notice? Just study the areas of sound that are empty right now. In your mind's eye, you can kind of reach out to the corners of wherever you are and notice the quiet in the corners. With temperature change, with fall coming, can you tell that there's coolness, more coolness? Can you notice that? Now notice sense of smell, sense of taste. But be sure to, it's early, so you may not have eaten anything. So just notice the absence of stimuli, the base, 0. The place before stuff shows up, the place from which all things show up from. The whole point of this is to bring your sense of curiosity to the present moment. And what happens when you bring curiosity, your mind just goes, oh, okay, I can be interested in this. Curiosity tames the mind every time. Second bell. Second bell is all about the body. So interacting with the body in chunks. First chunk is always connecting to the ground or connecting to something that you're working with. Excuse me. So your ground as you're sitting is just what's beneath you. Now, your ground when we're practicing armored down Aikido could be the stuff we're working with. So it doesn't just mean what's beneath you. It means what you're touching. It's really important distinction. It's what you're touching. So as you're seated, what you're touching is just what's beneath you, right? In other contexts, you could be touching something with your hands, or you could be leaning against something. That would represent ground too. So that's important to understand. So then we move up and we feel in the pelvic region. So the pelvic region has our genitals, has our digestive stuff, has insertion points, has all kinds of these really sophisticated muscles. All that goes on in the pelvis. Now, a happy pelvis pretty much means you're without too much sensation there. So you can study just the experience of that kind of readiness or that just emptiness or just whatever. But if you want, you can add a little bit of movement, add a little bit of shift, and that might create a sense of feeling that you didn't notice, or maybe you can tell that you're a little off balanced or whatever. But just ping that region and interact with it. You know, in the military, we do this thing called no pain, no gain, which is, you know, compartmentalize. Put the mission first. You know, don't let whatever's going on inside of you distract you. So, you know, a skill set that's honed in the military is the compartmentalization of your feelings, what your body has to say, because you just got to push on. Well, over time, that becomes problematic. And so what you want to do is you want to develop a good, steady, stable relationship to your body. And the reason why you want to do that is because your body's going to show up with all kinds of things, and you want to be able to notice it. So come up to your core, noticing what your core is doing. Maybe you can feel fabric of clothing around your belly. Maybe you can feel breathing. Heart space, just move your shoulder blades. Always connect with your shoulder blades. And then it's really important to get a feel for your heart space. There's so much in the realm of emotion and human interaction that shows up in the heart space region. Really important to be aware of that. Really important to understand that. Anxiety shows up a lot in the heart space, but so do premonitions. So does excitement. So does joy. I mean, there's just so many ranges of experience that show up in the heart space. And each time you go to this region and move around the shoulder blades and feel how that pulls on the skin in the front of your body, and you know what it does to the collarbones. Each time you engage with this region, you develop relationship. You develop connection to. You develop feedback patterns. And your whole system is a feedback pattern, but you don't recognize it because you barely know how to pay attention to anything. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just that culturally we just avoided this as a thing that we need to teach people. We just didn't really know. I mean, it was material, right? What you pay attention to is material. Material is what matters, right? No. So now let's go to throat space. Throat space has, you know, a lot of subtlety to it. There's some subtle layers that you can be aware of around throat space. The most easy things to notice, you can make a swallow, you can notice air, and you can notice temperature difference. But what you really want to get good at noticing in throat space is vibratory stuff. So if you take your hand and stick it on your throat and you start, you know, humming a little tune, like the ants go marching. So if you were starting to go, you can feel vibration in your throat. So in the yogic world, the throat the throat represents the region of communication, and it's obvious, right? So, but the vibratory stuff's really cool. And if you ever get into singing or chanting or doing some of these other techniques that really stimulate the throat region, you can feel the vibration in the throat, but you can actually start to feel it all the way down. And the reason why you can't do this when you're early on is you just have no relation to it. You because you don't know how to pay attention, and because you have not paid that much attention over your life to these things, they just don't show up. But they do start to show up when you start to pay attention. Now go to the top of the head, top of the spine. What you want is upright and relaxed. So upright top of the head, top of the spine, ground, pelvis, core, heart, throat, top of the head. Soften everything. Soften face. Face gets soft. Soften the muscles behind the eyes, the cheeks. Your face connects to your organs through the vagus nerve. And it's your social nervous system. So your face is connected to all your other senses and all your cues, your subconscious that you're getting from other people. And so this is what I was talking about when I was talking about Biden. You could tell Biden's internal nervous system was all disrupted because his face kept changing. Now you can tell Trump's environment is just a black hole. You can tell that from his face. But you could tell from Biden that he was really being disrupted by Trump's onslaught. You can see it all over his face. So the face, having this relationship to the face, I mean, every morning I encourage you to soften the muscles behind the eyes, soften the nose, soften the cheeks, soften the chin. And I bet you never thought that this was an asset or a detriment inside of verbal conflict. I bet you never thought of that. But it is. It is. So you can manipulate that, but without having a relationship to it, you can't. All right, so let's go into third bell. All right, third bell is breath. Okay, so just notice baseline. It's very difficult to get to the breath inside of a conflict. It's very difficult. Think of a conflict with a loved one, spouse, whatever. It's very difficult. So just start with noticing your breath as it is. Now, max out your breath, full inhale, full exhale. Now, your thoughts influence your breathing, and your breathing influences everything else. So it's your breathing is a direct link to your central nervous system, and you should take advantage of that. So we're just going to do a base practice with breath. And so the base practice with breath is awareness of side breathing, front and back breathing, up and down breathing, and all together, and then your ability to influence time. So it's 4 parts that we're going to do. So when you're ready, think sides, breathe sides, feel sides. So think of your sides, take a deep breath in, feel your sides. Notice how that happens. Think sides, feel sides, breathe sides. Now think front and back, feel front and back, breathe. Think front and back, breathe front and back, feel front and back. Think up and down, breathe up and down, feel up and down. Now, let's do some time changes. So max out your inhale in under 4 seconds. Pause at the top for 7 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds. Repeat. So notice how if you think in seconds, you can influence your breathing at that level of kind of precision. You can make your breath move faster or slower based on how you're thinking about it. So let's do that round one more time. 4, 7, 8. Now just sit for a second. Now, this spot right here where you're at, this spot lends itself to meditation. So meditation is sitting with the nature of your mind. So really getting into the nature of your mind, understanding the mind, and really kind of going into aspects of what it is to exist as a human being and what the mind really is all about. And what happens when you start to kind of address the mind through meditation is the way the mind shows up as part of your experience of being a human changes. And you start to recognize that the mind is not the human. The mind is not what you are. The mind is something that you have, but it's not what you are. And so part of what meditation does is help you with that realization. And this is the part I like about it the most, is it influences the volume of the way the mind can communicate with you. So if you have a lot of anxiety, practicing meditation, and by that I mean getting to the third bell, and you can even go into fourth bell while in meditation. But getting to third bell and sitting in third bell for 5 minutes is so wonderful, so wonderful. And it lasts. Because if you can get to third bell, if you tame the mind, if you've created an alignment that's comfortable, and now you're breathing with your attention tied to the breath, your mind, of course, will pull you away to what's for breakfast or when can I get coffee or da-da-da-da-da-da. But as you keep bringing it back to the breath, the mind slowly starts to lose its power to pull you away and becomes more and more transparent. And as the mind becomes more and more transparent, you begin to recognize that you're not your mind. And the more you recognize that you're not your mind, the more success that you will have in this context of this week in particular in managing conflict. Because just imagine if nothing that Trump said bothered Biden. If Biden was totally without disruption from all of Trump's statements. He says something about his son. He goes to the lowest of the lows. And Biden is just kind of watching the same way a parent is watching a toddler play in the grass. You know, totally safe, nothing to worry about. And just watching the toddler just kind of do its thing. Just kind of being just aware, attentive, almost loving, right? Imagine if Biden was loving towards Trump. His body language, mannerisms, and all. Loving towards Trump. Can you imagine what that would have done? What that would look like? Oh, my Lord. Anyway, that's third bell. Let's go to fourth bell, finish up. So the whole point of all this, right, which is, beyond a meditation, is bringing the best version of yourself. And I'm just going to tell you, you're not your mind, nor are you your body. You have a mind, you have a body, and without them, you couldn't recognize anything more than you kind of the divine aspect, the mysterious aspect, the part of you that's not your mind, not your body, whatever that is. I'm not giving that a name. You can decide what it is for yourself. But that's the piece where we go to with fourth bell, which is really what connects us to ourselves and to the rest of the world. So fourth bell here. And so the way to connect to the rest of the world is through the heart. So that's why we talk about attacking the armor. You attack the armor to get to the heart, and the best way to get to the heart is with loving kindness. And if you can get to the heart, even a dark heart with loving kindness, it totally throws off the dark heart. You get to see the dark heart for what it is, which is a lost heart. And that's, not, you could say it's a lost spirit, but I really want to ground this in a real thing. The real thing is the actual real thing, which is the heart. And so you can open your eyes or keep them closed if you want. Whatever you want to do now is kind of up to you, but I encourage you to frame it in kind of two parts. First part's gratitude. So when you're thinking gratitude, you want to be thinking not, happy, airy-fairy gratitude. You want to be thinking about gratitude on the real grounded level. Like, I'm thankful that my heart's beating strong this morning. I'm thankful that I'm up and ready to go. I'm thankful that I'm practicing how to pay attention. I'm thankful that I've got this great, technology that connects me to people all over the world with a snap. I'm grateful for all that stuff, and that's really great. You can also put your hands on your heart if you like. Sometimes I like to do that. I can just feel the beating underneath. It's solid. It's constant. I can rely on it. And then the part that's really sometimes challenging, but it's worth it if you can do it on a regular basis, is to open your heart to those that are suffering. And so this is the practice of compassion. And there are so many people out there that are suffering. And part of cultivating the best version of yourself is to really experience the best version of yourself is to give it away, right? You really want to experience more of the best version of yourself, more and more of the parts of yourself that you're really proud of. Give it away. Back in the old days, we called that honor, right? You don't acquire honor by buying it. You don't acquire honor by having the dopest girl or the dopest guy or the dopest car or the biggest gun. That doesn't give you honor. Honor is what you give away. Honor, you get honor by giving, right? That's back in the old days. But that's when they understood things. They understood things before we understood things intellectually. There's nothing wrong with the intellect. There's nothing wrong with science. There's nothing wrong with the evolution of what we've created. It's great. But it's got flaws just like everything else. So when you're compassionate and you're giving the best version of yourself to someone, and you just be in your imagination who's suffering and you're offering your goodwill, that's honor. And the more honor you have, the more you get to give away. And the more you get to give away, the more you get. And the more honorable you are, the more people will trust you. And the more they trust you, the more they'll build around you. And the more they build around you, the less you have to do. It's just the best thing ever. I mean, you build a family around honor and love and compassion. And, by the time you're old and dying, you don't have to do anything because they're going to take care of you. Like that's how shit used to work, right? So anyway, that's fourth bell, okay? And that's what really matters, all right? You want to bring the best version of yourself to every moment. Why would you not? And the best version of yourself is not a burden. It's not this, I've got to be perfect. I got to give up all temptation. I got to give up all desire. No. It's you have to recognize the structures of who you are. You recognize that there's a base, which is the moment, the present moment. You got to get to it. That's step bell 1. Bell 2 is the body. Your body has to be involved. It has to be involved. Bell 2, that's bell 2. Bell 3, interacting. That's the breath. The breath in your nervous system are in constant harmony or disharmony, or not, I shouldn't say that. They're in constant relationship. And you need to learn how to participate with that relationship. And then finally, the fourth part is the representation of what you really are, which is more than your parts. More than your parts. I'm not going to tell you what you are because I don't know. I have ideas. I call it the mystery, the soul, whatever that is. But it's there. And to bring it to a moment of conflict is transcendent. It's the type of shit that people write about or people go. Like imagine if Joe was like totally chill, Trump's coming at him, and Joe started stuttering, right? Joe was like, and he really, really kind of like let it be blatant, like, and he's like, excuse me. And he kind of was like, and Trump sees blood in the water, and Trump's like, yeah, see, and Trump dives in and starts attacking, and Biden just goes, y'all just see that? You see that? All I had to do was feign a little bit of weakness. I had to overcome stuttering. It was very hard. It taught me empathy. Trump got $500 billion from his daddy, blew it, cheated, made some more money by being fake famous, blew that. Now he runs the country, blew that too. You know what it all starts? It all starts with that dark heart of his. All I had to do was stutter a little bit. Showed you right there. Imagine what would have happened. Oh my gosh, we'd be talking about it for months. Trump would attack, be like a dog. Attack. Oh, there's Biden, sleepy Biden, making fun of him, and Biden's just kind of like, and then all of a sudden he just turned the switch. It's like, America, I did that on purpose. Now, I didn't do it because of that guy. I did it to just show you. And look, what do you want me to do? Anyway, that's fourth bell. That's your best. Like, and that's the type of shit that people write about. So, all right. Let me just read the stanza. I'm gonna rewrite these things at some point, and then it's going to be called Armor Down Aikido, and it'll be language in a way that you can connect to a little bit deeper. But the language of the original is so sweet. So here's the 59th stanza. Techniques employ 4 qualities that reflect the nature of our world. Depending on the circumstance, you should be hard as a diamond, flexible as a willow, smooth flowing like water, or empty as space. Pretty sweet, pretty dope. All right, I'm out of here. Let's see if anybody down here. Nope.